Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show, you bunch of legends. Me and Shreyas have compiled a list of strikers who we think would be suitable in terms of what Manchester United need right now. And one thing we're going to promise is if there is a striker that we don't touch on that you've put in the comments section, I will do an individual separate video on them, more of like a scouting kind of deep dive and check them out. So do get your strikers in the comments section. That's the most important thing. We have the charismatic Mr. Shreyas sing alongside, mate. How are we doing, mate? Oh, God. Yeah. I'm glad you said it because this break, as most breaks, but the one in particular near March is the killer because you just get into the exciting part of the season where you don't know who's going to get relegated, you don't know who's going to win the league, you don't know who's going to win certain things, and then this comes in the middle of it, especially after our last win against Liverpool, a 4-3 barn burner, and it's a momentum killer, isn't it? That's it. Yeah. Fucking yeah, it's been annoying this, but we are there and we are gonna have the Brentford preview tomorrow. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Now, the specifics today is of course the striking position because it's gonna be a massive signing, Shreyas. There's a lot of different dynamics to it and different talking points and also different strikers, like a variety of strikers that we're gonna get into. But it is interesting at the moment, just in general, the current dynamic around that because Højlund's our only fit striker at the moment, isn't it? Shreyas, just 1 second. Sorry to cut you out. I can't hear you apparently at the moment, so let me just. It's probably on my end, so apologies, people, if you can't hear Shreyas' wonderful voice. It's probably the audio output in it that I've not put on like an
Okay.
absolute. It has me all confident going at it, saying, "Yeah, yeah, sweet." So audio output, headphones. I need to put on. Just speak for us, Shreyas.
Hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, so you should be able to hear it now. I do apologise about that, people. Yeah, it's me, tech issue. You know the script already. People know. Yeah, sorry. Just again, repeat that what we was getting into there. About your yeah, you was talking about the striker situation. Fascinating,
Yeah,
different dynamics.
yeah, and I think right now we are in a position where we generally are in a big, tough position when it comes to having someone who can do a job for us when Hoyland is not available. I think
Hmm.
Hoyland is a very good striker. He's someone who can become a very, very, I would say, serious talent in the coming few years. But
Yeah,
even I think just giving him all the pressure of being that Manchester United number 9 at the kind of age that he is in right now, it's too much for any youngster, especially for someone who's coming in of in a completely different league from a completely different setup. And then
yeah.
also he's been able to convert goals for us in the Champions League. He's been, before he got injured, he was also scoring for us. He was on a hot streak when it comes to scoring in the Prem as well. So overall, I'm very, very confident with Hoyland, but I think who we end up going for is going to be something that we need to be very, very particular about, because we don't want someone coming in who expects to actually play 40 to 45 games a season, because for that sort of profile we've already got Hoyland, someone who's young, someone who needs to get as much game time as possible. Personally, I would say we should go in for someone who's much more experienced, someone who knows the ins and outs, someone who can be a mentor to Rasmus Højlund in this United team, because right now he's just there, he's just doing every single thing on his own. So probably getting someone experienced could actually help us out a lot. Maybe it helps out the players surrounding on the wings in that number 10 position with Bruno. Maybe it helps them out as well, but I think we do need some firepower and some backup when it comes to that striker position. Maybe it's one, maybe it's two signings, but we do genuinely need it.
Well, you've spoken about there like more of an experience thing, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask. So you covered that. In terms of stylistically, though, like what striker would you want to go for? Because the debate with England, let's say, for example, at the moment is they've got Harry Kane, and then they have other options in. They have Ivan Toney that they can take. They have Ollie Watkins that they can take. and a couple of others. But Tony gives you more similar than what Kane does in terms of hold up play. He can play with his back to play, can link play, can get in behind. He can do everything. Tony, he's one of those guys. He's got all the feathers in his cap. So for United, with that in mind, Højlund is obviously one of those who can similar fashion. Like his hold up play is decent. I think his hold up play is underrated in my opinion. His pacing behind is threatening. And he's got that instinct as well for the box. So what striker do we need? Would you get a different kind of striker to complement it, more of an aerial threat, or would you go for a similar profile?
To be perfectly honest, I don't think it matters when at United right now if you get someone who's
just
good
get
when
anyone.
it comes to
Just get a body in there.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, we don't really cross the ball in that much that we need that much of an aerial presence in the box. Like most of our games, if you go through, I've hardly seen us, like game. If I look into United, playing 3 games a row, I don't even see 10 crosses being put in consistently in those 3 games.
Yeah.
And I think if you go in with someone who has more of an aerial presence, then you need to actually switch up the way you play. You need to be putting the ball in more. You need to be looking to actually, assert your dominance when it comes to aerial duels. But United really don't do that when it comes to the final third. We are more, I would say, we play more grounded balls. Even when we cross the ball in, it's not that players are going in for headers. They look to control the ball a lot more. They look to go in for a shot. So personally, I think I would go in for someone who can just interlink play a lot more. Someone who can draw all these people into it when it comes to Rashford, when it comes to Garnacho, because we still don't know whether we'll be getting a playmaker. And even if we do get a playmaker, what sort of a player who he would be. I think right now what United genuinely need is someone who can, get Bruno, interlink Rashford, interlink Garnacho, Anthony, whoever is playing on the flank, but someone who can actually,
Be a
interlink
nucleus,
someone,
almost.
someone who can be a focal point in that attack and not a focal point in the way that, everything needs to be flowing through them. They need to be a focal point in a way that everyone knows how to operate around, alongside them.
Yeah.
That's why I think someone like Benzema would have been perfect for that sort of a system because he knows how to draw not just the opposition players behind, but he knows how to work with these sort of wingers.
Yeah.
Players who want to take the shot off, who are not much into,
He
getting their
knows how
head
to
up in the final third.
shapeshift, doesn't he? He knows how to
Exactly.
shapeshift. That's a
Exactly.
perfect kind of way to
Exactly.
describe him. But with
Exactly.
Benzema, it's one of those where it goes against the Ineos model, doesn't it? Like they're never ever going to sign someone like that. But the reason why I asked this question is because you look at Arsenal, Jesus and Nketiah are different types of strikers. Haaland and Alvarez are different type of strikers. Nunes and Jota, let's say, for example, different types. So they have different profiles for different games. When you have these kind of tactical adjustments, that's the only reason why I mentioned it. So I think in terms of obviously stylistically, it's important in terms of what they're going to profile or what they think we need at the minute. Because I even still think, I know Højlund is a big lad, but I don't necessarily think he's great in the air. I don't think he's great at heading.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. So sometimes I see in a game and I'm like, I want to bring someone on like a target man a little bit that we can hit and the runners can go off him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I just think even to actually see that happen, we need to be putting the balls in the
That's a good point.
in the box a lot more. Because
might help.
Even if you look at our fullbacks right now, Dalot can cross the ball a lot more. He has the ability. He just doesn't do it as much.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to crossing and putting the ball in, that is something that needs to be brought into discipline into the players. Maybe it cultivates on itself when you bring that sort of a player in, but I do think definitely having a different profile does help because in games where, especially when you're playing teams who play a low block, having those different profiles of strikers can actually help you out a lot. Someone who is much more of a presence, air release, maybe a different sort of a striker who knows how to break the lines and make those sort of runs that can just open up the spaces for others to move into. So I think whoever we end up going for is going to be very, very tricky because I just really still don't know how it is going to go when it comes to this sort of system that we are playing. Because if we are going to be continuing with this sort of a system, then we genuinely need a hybrid striker, someone who knows how to shift on, shift off, someone who knows how to operate with wingers like Rashford and Garnacho, someone who knows how to just operate around the box. Because one thing that I have noticed with Højlund in the when he was not injured before the game against Liverpool as well, that he was very instinctive when it came to his positioning in the box. He knew that there is only going to be one opportunity that he might get the ball throughout the whole course of the game. So every single time he picked his spots around the box, he was very, very close to players like Rashford or Garnacho because he knew that if I'm going to be like even between two defenders, these players are not going to be finding me. So whoever comes in, I think they need to be very instinctive, and they genuinely need to be hybrid enough in order to know when to switch on, when to switch off.
Well, we're going to get into the individuals very, very shortly. Sam's, I'm not going to read Alex's Kahir Shreyas, that was at the start of the show.
Yeah.
Lucky Singh saying, I want a manager at the club, Ten Hag in. We've seen Southgate yesterday. That was not acceptable. I think most people will probably agree with you there. We need Southgate to stop thrashing we get from City and Liverpool, the likes of Brighton. I don't get that. Prabhav Quendeli is in the chat, who's a real Red Ultra member, saying, hiya, folks. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you, Prabhav. I hope you're good. Thank you for joining us today. Sam saying, what's up, Prav? Charlie Mom saying, Xerxes is a perfect target man. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But yeah, keep getting your strikers in who you would personally love for us to go and get, whether it's realistic or unrealistic. I'm going to kick things off now, Shreyas. I dropped a little short before on YouTube, and I don't know if anyone's seen it, in terms of the 5 strikers I maybe would look at, but I'm going to expand on that slightly. Brian Brobby is someone who I've been not convinced with just purely because of the Ajax link, and I think any United fans have nightmares, don't they, when you hear of any kind of Ajax player or any player that Eric Ten Hag knows. Yeah,
enough of Ajax players.
Exactly, but he is young. He's got 16 goals, 7 assists this season. Ten Hag gave him his debut, so he knows him extremely well. And we were just talking about a player who's good with his back to play, good with linking play and stuff like that. He is a guy who fits that profile and also would be very cheap. But you have the gamble, don't you, with that Eredivisie player? Can he do the same? Is it going to be another kind of Antonet? Is it worth risking this kind of signing, do you think?
I'm genuinely not convinced with Robbie. The reason being, I still remember there was one time that he actually made a move from Ajax to RB Leipzig.
Yeah.
It didn't work out for him at all, and he then went back to Ajax. So I think he's someone who could be decent, but I'm genuinely not convinced if he's the type of signing you want to go for, because Broby seems to me more like a Hoyland type of signing. Someone who's young, someone who's a big gamble. Whether it's going to work out or not. You've already got that in Hoyland. So I'm not that keen when it comes to Brian Broby. And especially the fact that he plays with Ajax, especially the fact that he's got that connection with Ten Hag before. I think we genuinely need to move on from this whole dynamic. That players who've worked under Ten Hag before, we just keep on going after those
There would almost be more pressure just because of that, wouldn't there, in a sense?
Yeah. And you've already seen that sort of pressure on certain players already that we have managed to actually pull in the past few transfer windows. So I think we need to move on from this dynamic that we need to get in the player who has worked under Ten Hag before. We need to, widen our search and actually go in for someone who's going to be much more beneficial for this team right now.
Yeah, for sure. It is one of those that's on the list, but I would kind of put it down the list. You know what I mean? Probably would be number 5. In that sense. Is there anyone who, as they would say in England, tickles your pickle, Shreyas?
Because of the price, I would say right now Dybala. I think
interesting.
Because
I thought that was a controversial, wild card take. Me putting that in there, I thought it was a bit. But you like Dybala, do you?
Yeah, I think this team right now needs that sort of a player. The reason being, someone who knows how to operate in multiple positions, someone who's got a lot of experience in his bank, and on top of that, he's not going to be worth more than even 15 million. I think he's got a release clause in his contract for about 10 or 12 million.
Yeah,
so
12, I think it is.
Even if it doesn't really work out, it's not going to be as much of a problem. And because he's, I think he's 30 years old or 31 years old right now. So he's probably the best option you could go for, in the sense that even if he leaves the club in 2 years, you've got Hoyland, who's going to be in the peak of his ability at that age. So, and I think when you look into Dybala, he's someone who can work very well in the 10. He can work off the, on the wing as well. And if you want to play him as a striker, he's doing that job quite well for Roma. So I think he brings, one thing is, he does bring a lot of creativity into the final third. He's someone, I would say he's genuinely a very different player. If you have to look into, if you look into Hoyland and then you look into Dybala, they are two very, very different players.
Miles apart in terms of style.
Yeah. And I think, considering how this team sets up, you need someone like Dybala, someone who's got that inquisitiveness, someone who's got that, vision when it comes, not just as a midfielder, but I would say the vision of how to, be in the right area, and at the same time the wingers or the players you are actually playing off with. He's very good in interlinking the play with wingers. So I would say Dybala is someone who could work out, and I would say even if it doesn't really work out, you're not really spending as much that it would be as much of a loss. Because
Yeah.
if you do end up going for someone like a Brobbey, you will be paying about 30 or 40 million. If he doesn't work out, it will be a big loss. But going in for someone like Dybala worth about 10 or 12 million,
It's
it's
chump
not as much
change
of a loss.
to United,
Yeah,
innit?
yeah,
Chump change. The thing is,
yeah,
I remember doing a video on Julian Alvarez, right, ages ago. One of the first videos I
yeah,
ever did. And the way the journalist in South America were describing him was like a 9.5. So he's not a striker, but he's kind of a shadow striker in a sense. Like think of Ten Hag's system at Ajax when he was first there in like 2018-19 when he was playing the shadow striker. Sometimes even Donny van der Beek would play there. I think he would get the best out of Dybala. I really, really do. And people may
yeah,
bring up like injuries and things like that. But if you think about it, because he can play in so many positions, he's going to get more than enough game time if you play 50, 60 games a
yeah,
season. So
yeah.
it's not a risk for me. I know he's 30. I know
And
people say, this is like a Mourinho signing, ironically, because Mourinho was at Roma. But people are asking for an experienced attacking player who can, kind of tether that role with Højlund, maybe coming in some of the important European games, give Bruno a rest. We've got Mount as well
yeah.
there. I don't see why not. I don't see why not.
And in the off game, if you want, you can actually play him off as a right winger as well, a
Yeah,
creative right winger who can actually pass the ball in a lot more.
yeah. The only
So
thing I'll say about him though, Shreyas, I'm not sure about his defensive work rate off the ball. I haven't
yeah,
seen much
yeah,
of that because obviously Ten Hag likes. Look at Bruno, for example, covers about 12
yeah,
kilometers a
yeah,
game.
yeah,
I don't know what Dybala's like in that sense. That would be my
yeah,
only kind of thing. That's kind of
yeah,
questionable. So maybe I have to watch a little bit more of him this season. Another striker. We're going to talk about Ivan Toney towards the end because that is the big name. That's the one that's on everyone's kind of conscious at the minute. So we'll discuss that towards the end. Don't worry about that, people in the chat. I want to talk about Victor Gyökeres, right? A guy who was not on my radar whatsoever until this year. I have to admit it. You have all your kind of analytical
yeah,
geeks on Twitter who keep posting and posting. I'm like, who the fuck is this kid, man? Never even heard of him. 50 goals and assists combined so far. I think it's the most in Europe, or one of the most in Europe.
yeah,
Has
yeah,
everything in his game from what I've seen. I watched him for Sweden against Portugal. Watched him a couple of times for Sporting. Flying at the minute. Chelsea and Arsenal linked with him. 45 mil, maybe rising up to like 70 million pounds. What are your thoughts on him? Have you watched much of him? Just be honest. If you haven't watched much of him, you haven't seen him. It is what it is. But is there a lot of hype around him at the minute? Is it just hype? Do you think, or?
I think he's genuinely having a very insane season right now.
Yeah.
Like for a striker, especially. I think he moved last season from the Championship
Yeah.
to Sporting. So definitely, he's made a big mark for himself at Sporting right
Meteoric
now.
rise in that sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the season is not over yet. So he can easily end the season with about 60 or 65 goal contributions the way he's going right now. He's already made it
Crazy.
50. Yeah, so
That's like
and if he
Ronaldo,
does do
Messi
that,
numbers in La
yeah,
Liga, innit? Back in the day.
exactly. And if he does end up doing that, he would go at least, because he's quite young as well, he'd go at least for about 70, 75 million. And that's the
Yeah.
least amount, I would say.
Yeah.
So I just think monetarily, it makes no sense for United to be even around that sort of a player right now. Because I think he's a very talented player. He's a very deep, and he's got massive potential. But considering how this Ineos structure wants to build, I don't see us going in for signings that are going to be costing us more than 75 or 80 million. I think we'll be going in for signings which are going to be, we would make multiple signings, but it would be more in the range of like 30 or 40 million or 35 million.
Especially with Omar coming in as well, innit?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see us going in for someone like him. If we do, it will be a surprise, but I genuinely just don't see us sniffing around the, this sort of a player who will be
With the
worth
competition
that
as
much.
well.
Yeah, but
It'll be a lot of
there's a
clubs in
very,
for him.
very big chance he might be, on his way to Arsenal or Chelsea next season. There's a
Yeah.
very, very big chance.
And you can't blame him for where we're at currently as a club. I mean, Man United is still a massive
Yeah.
draw. But you look at like someone like Arsenal, for example, who are pushing for a league title, going far in the Champions League. Someone like Gyökeres will probably have a handpick of the clubs that he wants to go to.
Of
So,
course, of course.
yeah, I think I agree with you. I think United will probably stay away from that. But from the scout reports that I've seen from very credible people online, they all seem to be obsessed with him and all seem to really, really like him. So he is someone I would keep on the radar, but I don't think United are strongly linked with him at the minute. It was just a name
Exactly.
that I put out there because he's obviously performing extremely well at the minute. Do you have anyone else that you want to discuss, or do you want me to continue?
I think apart from that, I would say Cunha from
Cunha.
Wolves.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. That's
I
definitely a
think he's
different
a
prototype of striker.
yeah.
Mm.
He's someone who can play as the nine. He can play as a false nine. He can play off the wings as well. He's got a
Hmm.
lot. I think he's a very dynamic player. Like
Yeah.
when he is on the pitch, like it's very difficult to understand. How he's going to play. Even whenever we've come up against him, he's always been very lively in those sort of games. And I think as a player, he's quite difficult to actually track. His movements, the way he is able to track around the box, and defensively as well. I think his off the ball movement is quite decent, and he's
Yeah.
been doing a terrific job at Wolves right now. So I think Cunha could be, especially if you're going in for someone as a backup striker, I think he could be a decent bargain buy
Yeah.
going
Nine
in. I don't see
goals and 6 assists this season so far, and that's just in the Premier League,
yeah,
which is not a bad return considering I don't know where Wolves are in the table.
I think
But
they are ninth or something.
are they that high? Really? I thought it was a little bit lower than
I
that.
think so.
Let's have a look. Yeah, ninth. Yeah, spot on. Mr. Shreyas Singh with the knowledge there. Yeah, so
Yeah.
9 goals, 6 assists isn't bad in 20 odd games, I think it is. Do you think he can make that step up though? Do you think he has the profile or will it be one of those where when it's announced as like this is a secondary kind of striker thing? Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? What like Bayern Deer, for example.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, as well, there's one more thing I want to throw in there. I think Wolves paid a lot of money for him. I think it was like 50 million quid that they paid for Cunha. So that is the only
I
thing where
think
I'm
they
like,
did, but
how much will he want from
I
United
just
going
still
in?
think I just personally think that he won't be as expensive for us right now, because when I look at Wolves right now, their most expensive player right now, if I have to look into it, would
Cunha.
be Pedro Neto.
Oh, you mean like resale? Like if they was to sell the player now, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, Neto, probably, I'd imagine.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I still think that overall, if I have to look at all the available options, because with Cunha, another I would say positive is he's Premier League proven.
Yeah.
Like it's not that he'll
And
be
we hate
going in.
using that word, don't we? Premier League proven.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah, but
true. It's like,
it
do you know
is,
what I mean?
especially with us, it genuinely matters a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe we end up actually saving ourselves like 10 to 15 million
Yeah.
by going in for this sort of a player, because he's not even that old. He's still, I think, in that younger bracket as well. So it would be a different signing, because you would not expect United to be, linked or be going in for these sort of players. These are not the sort of players we usually go for. But if you have to look into it in the perspective that these players can add to bench strength, then
Hmm.
he's a very very good signing. Like
Yeah.
going into a game 70-75 minutes in, you take Hoyland off, then you get someone like Cunha on, who can operate in multiple positions as well. So it does add a lot to bench strength, and
Yeah.
does add a different profile as well.
There's a couple of names in the chat. I'm just going to reel them off. Ivan Toney, Vlahovic, Sesko. We may talk about Sesko in a moment. Something about Rashford, Hoyland. Yeah, a lot of things going off there. One player I want to discuss, who I am not, I have to be honest with you, Shreyas, I'm not completely sold on at all, is Jonathan David. I've heard his name mentioned quite a lot. 24 years old, 15 goals, 2 assists this season. He's another one who's versatile, can play in, different kind of tactical setups. But whenever I've watched him, he's been a little bit rough around the edges. And what I mean by that is his first touch can be off. He snatches at the ball sometimes. He doesn't look like, when he's on it, he's really, really good. But there's been games where I've watched him in the French league
He's
where I'm
still
like,
not the finished product yet. He's not the
no,
finished
that's what I'm
article yet.
saying. So I feel
There's
like that's
still
more of a risky signing, though. Do you know what I mean?
it definitely is, because the thing is right now United have already got that with Hoyland. Genuinely, they've got that unfinished article, but someone who
Yeah,
can prove to be very very decent. We've
exactly.
already got that at United. That's why the kind of players I'm wanting actually coming to United are are players who've got a lot of experience in their bank, who have been doing that job for quite some time. These sort of players can work out too, but the problem is at United, it is very tough for these players to work out with the kind of atmosphere around. Mm, We've seen it with Hoyland as well. Was not scoring in the Premier League, even though he was the top scorer in the Champions League.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
were just going at him, at him, at him, at him. And
yeah,
now that he started scoring once again, things just dial down. But at United, the pressure is going to be very, very immense, especially for these sort of players, because it's not like even when we go for these players, they end up costing us just 20 or 35 million. Even when we go in for these sort of players, they end up costing us 55 to 60 million.
Yeah.
So that
Minimum.
price tag and everything, it just comes into the picture.
I never take the French league as like a valid. I know it sounds bad because you do have top players in there, obviously, like Kylian Mbappe and these guys.
Yeah.
But Lacazette went from the Premier League as a pretty average striker to the league last season and scored 27 goals. You know what I mean? So it's hard to gauge
He's on the top
the
scorers
quality.
list this season as well.
Yeah.
Aubameyang is on the top scorers list season.
Do we need to say any more then? Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly my point.
Even when Cristiano was talking about it, he was like, he thinks the Saudi league is above the French league now. Like, it's probably the worst one out of the ones when we talk like the Italian league, Spanish, German, French, and English.
Even if you look
French
at the Portuguese league, you've got Porto, you've got Sporting, you've got Braga, you've got clubs there who, you know,
it's only PSG,
they can
innit?
give you
who do bits in Europe, and even still, like they've struggled in Europe notoriously over the past 5-6 years, even with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe in the fucking front line. So
they've not even made it to semis.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? It's nuts.
Yeah.
I remember that being announced when they was like they're gonna have Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. Like that is, we all remember Messi, Neymar, and Suarez at Barcelona. I thought Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, that is going to be killer, mate. And don't get me wrong, the numbers were still good and they still won things and stuff like that. But the expectation in terms of
exactly,
they didn't
when
give
you got that sort of attack, then you simply expect, you know, a certain type of achievement.
Yeah.
Absolute killers, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be. And I don't think it has been for a long time at PSG. I think there's something fundamentally wrong there, but we can say that for another day. I wanted to discuss one player who is my favourite on this list, Shreyas. I'm probably sure you know where this is going to go. Benjamin Sesko. Again, I know you keep describing the other guys as ones who are similar to Højlund, same age profile, similar players in that sense. 20 years old, got 7 goals, 2 assists so far this season. Not like a main starter, but plays quite a decent amount of games. Powerhouse, absolutely rapid, fantastic finisher. Looks like he's got the minerals to take the next step, and he's got a release clause as well. I think he would provide perfect competition. And I referenced the fact that back in like 2008 and that kind of period where we won the Champions League and stuff, we had like Tevez, Ronaldo, Rune, Berbatov, these kind of guys. Is there a situation where we can do that, where we can put them up against each other and just have them chomping for the bit, like competition-wise, or do you think that wouldn't work?
I think it genuinely depends on the type of support we can provide both of these with, genuinely. Because I think you can get in Sesko. He's genuinely a very talented player. He's doing a very good season for his, for his first season at Leipzig. I think he displaced Werner. The reason Werner has actually moved to Tottenham is because Sesko is being given a lot more game time ahead of him. So there is definitely a lot of talent in him. And he's genuinely a unit. Like when he is in the box, he's
massive.
He's able to make his presence known.
Dubbed as the next Haaland, by the way. That's like what a lot of people in Germany are saying.
Yeah, and I just think if you need to go in for Sesko, then it is going to be this window. Because if you don't go in for in this window, like genuinely, then the next window he's easily going to be worth like 70, 75, or that sort of price range these players have. Once they start clicking, especially in in the Bundesliga clubs. So if you want to go in for Sesko, this is going to be probably your best opportunity to go in for someone like him.
Yeah.
So the only thing is, I would say if you're able to provide these players with a better supporting cast, because with Højlund and as well as Sesko, the only thing is they're not players who can create chances around themselves. They're people who need that sort of assistance. Like if you go in with certain sort of players, there are certain strikers who know how to just create chances by themselves, because they've done that. So just provide them with the supporting staff. I think it is going to be a very good rotation to have someone like Sesko as well. We've got Højlund, you've got Sesko.
In a transitional style, though, I think because it's similar to Haaland in that sense where he can get from one end of the pitch to the other. Because I think Haaland at City has become a box striker because the service is just incredible in it. Like he's got De Bruyne, Bernardo, all these guys. So all he has to do is just wait in the 18-yard box. Whereas more at Dortmund, he was more counter-attacking, transitional. He can bomb up the pitch. I think Sesko and Højlund can both do that. And if you look at Real Madrid's model recently, they've switched it up from buying all these Galacticos and doing certain things. Now, Bellingham's classed as a Galactico, but I'm talking like pure age profile. Camavinga, Rodrigo, Vinicius, Endrick, all the players they've got really young, cost quite a bit of money, But I'd like to see United buying a bit of both. Why not get Dybala and Sesko? If Dybala's 10, 12 million, why not get both? Do you know what I mean? Like that in an ideal world, of course. I'm not saying United will do that, but
Of course.
the release clause is now in it. You have to go get that now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because this is going to be the best opportunity you can get. After this season, we all know how high the price can go.
Yeah.
When Musiala went to Bayern, he was worth around 200,000. He had a release clause active for 50 million in the following season.
Wow.
But now that boat has sailed. Now if someone goes in for Musiala, he's going to be easily worth upwards of 100 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Top
Same
player,
case for Wirtz. Same case for Wirtz. He got injured. Leverkusen didn't really know what's going to happen with him. People could have jumped on that, jumped on him and gotten him at a very decent bargain buy. Now, if anyone goes anywhere near Wirtz, once again, just like Musiala, going to be worth more than 100 million at least.
Yeah. Yeah, he would be my number one pick, Sesko. Especially, I weren't even aware of the release clause. I didn't know it was like 40 odd million. I'm sat there saying that is a fuck. Go and get him. Get him and Højlund together, competing against each other. There's more than enough games. And if you need to sprinkle it with a bit of experience and season it with that, then go get your Dybalas and guys like this. These probably shrewd signings that you can make that people wouldn't even think about. Do you know what I mean? Like just random
I
names.
think even if you look into it, this season and last season, we end up playing more than 50 games a season in one way or another.
It's killing players, wasn't it? Murdering them.
Yeah, and with the sort of work rate that Ten Hag expects on the pitch, you need players.
Yeah, and if you're Højlund and you see Sesko coming in, you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to be on it. Like he's been good anyway recently. Don't get it twisted. But both of them chomping at the bit, at the right age where they'll accept that kind of role. They'll be like, yeah, I'll compete against him. I think I'm good enough.
Yeah,
they'll both believe that.
We've seen it against a lot of times against Liverpool as well. You've got a front line of Salah, Jota, and Diaz. Yeah. Then Jota is picked off, and then you see Darwin Núñez coming on, and players do feel that we need to still be on it.
Yeah, for sure.
We cannot take this game casually at all. So you need that sort of firepower.
So before we get onto the Ivan Toney talk and a couple of the Premier League Hall of Fame nominees, out of the list, who sticks out as your favourite in an ideal world, whether it's unrealistic, realistic, whatever? Who would you go for?
Dybala and Sesko.
Yeah,
Dybala,
I think
when you look into experience, and I would say bargain for money, Dybala. If you're going with someone and you look at it as a long-term project of having two strikers, competing with each other, probably 3 or 4 years down the line as well, then you're going for Sesko.
Shah Sam has just dropped an absolute bomb in the chat, saying nobody's saying it, so I'm going to say it. Bring back Weghorst and invest the money in other positions. Shah Sam, I love you, brother, but that is a strong statement to say bring Weghorst back. I know. I always appreciated the work that he was like an honourable player in it, Weghorst. Like he put in the legwork for other players around. And I think that's one of the reasons why Marcus Rashford had such a successful season, because Weghorst was just running around like a madman. But we need, if you're getting depth, you need decent depth.
We all know. We've all been there. We've all seen that.
Yeah. We've seen that rodeo. It was okay at the time. Scored 1 or 2 goals. Didn't work out.
Played as a 10. Played in midfield.
As a 10 at the new camp, by the way, against Barcelona, which is just fucking insane.
Displaced Pedri and Gavi all together in that game.
Yeah, so I'm going to go against that. Weghorst shout, but thank you for the comment, Shah Sam. Yeah, out of the list, you said Dybala and Sesko. I think I would agree with that. Ivan Toney, is that too unrealistic, do you think?
I don't think we'll be going anywhere near him in this window. I think he's going to be moving to one. I think he's going to be either moving to Arsenal or someone like a Tottenham. One of these sort of clubs.
I think him and Arsenal, jigsaw piece in a minute. Then if they get him, he's like, he would take them to the next level. I think they would win a title with him, genuinely.
I think he does elevate them to that level. But I just don't think United would be going anywhere near Ivan Toney.
No, for a multitude of reasons. The whole betting thing, I think as well.
If you're going in for someone like Toney, he's not going to be someone who's going to come in and be happy sitting on the bench either. Okay, now I'm going to be... He's good enough to start, he wants to be the one.
Yeah, he is. He's good. I watched him for England last night on his... I think it was his debut or his second game or whatever it was. Obviously scored the penalty, which everyone expected. But in terms of long balls being played up to him and just trapping it like that, like no problem, and then laying it off to the next player, that attack was actually really exciting. I was watching Ivan Toney, Bowen, Foden, Bellingham, Kobbie Mainoo, all like picking pockets and left, right, and like they've all got individual different qualities, and it was really nice to watch. But it's a shame because Southgate's a knobhead because he doesn't play him how they should be being played. You want to unlock the shackles on them kind of players. But yeah, I watched him last night. I mean, I watched him for Brentford fucking loads of times, and we're going to watch him on Saturday night when we play Brentford as well, and he'll probably end up scoring against us. And then the articles will come out straight after on Sunday saying, Ivan Toney to United, we're going to buy him, and and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He is a top player, though, innit? Like, if he was not a valid option, I don't know if I'd consider it or not, because I feel like it'd stunt Højlund's growth, but he would also take us to the next level, do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm a bit confused with that.
I just personally don't think that we'll be going near him. I think, and especially someone like Tony, he'll have better options to choose from. He'll genuinely be having a lot of better options to choose from. Maybe not just in England. Maybe he moves overseas as well. He's got a lot of clubs to actually choose from. He's genuinely got a lot, and there are going to be clubs who are going to be going in for him and can actually guarantee him Champions League football every single season. So coming to United in that perspective, I don't think that he'll be fancying that as much when it comes to the other offers that might be available to him.
Yeah, I think he's got Arsenal written all over it. Again, I think we're probably in agreement with that. And yeah, he'll probably end up winning a couple of trophies. Who knows? We'll see what happens with that. I want to talk about the Premier League Hall of Fame nominee, Shreyas. Over the past couple of days, we've discussed it. I think I don't know how many's been nominated. I think it's about maybe 12 to 16, something around that range.
Yeah.
I've done 4 over the past couple of days, discussing them in depth as players, what I think about them. But I think only 2 can be nominated or can actually go in. This season. I think that's how it's going to work. So I want to get your thoughts on it. The 4 players we're going to discuss today: Nemanja Vidic, obviously United legend, John Terry, David Silva, and Michael Owen. All top players in their own right. Of course, with your age profile, I don't mean this in a patronising way, but I'm just saying you might have not been able to see as much as someone like a Michael Owen, let's say, for example. But people like Vidic and people like David Silva, you would have seen a lot more of. So we'll kick it off with Nemanja Vidic. 211 appearances, 95 clean sheets, 5 titles, 2 season awards and 1 monthly award as well. Put his head in front of everything, dominant in the air.
There's nothing to actually even say about him. Like,
he's unreal.
The name speaks for it. The name speaks for itself. Like, I think a terrific captain, a solid leader, and arguably one of the best defenses the Premier League has ever seen. Him and Rio Ferdinand together. So I think hands down, with Vidic, you've genuinely not got a lot to say.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a trophy magnet as well.
Yeah,
multiple Premier Leagues, Champions League, and the recognition he gets from all the other players around him as well. From like even your big defenders, when they talk about Nemanja Vidic, it's like held in high esteem, innit?
Of course, and I think like you said, the trophies, the memories, and on top of that, the way he commanded United in his tenure as well, it just speaks for itself. Like, there is genuinely not a lot to actually pinpoint or go from, because I think his career as a player has been absolutely exceptional.
Yeah.
And that's why people to this day still they make a lot of parallels between him and Lisandro Martinez for a reason. That we see glimpses. So I just think that he's arguably one of the best defenders that the Premier League has ever seen. And hopefully, if we are able to see even a 50% version of him and Lisandro Martinez, we are pretty much sorted for the next few seasons.
Yeah. I'm surprised. The next one we'll discuss is John Terry, but I'm surprised, players like this haven't already been inducted, because some of the ones that are on the list, I'm like, how the fuck have they got on there before your likes of Vidic and Terry? Like 2 of the best centre-backs ever in Premier League history. It's so bizarre to me. I mean, Vidic got named Player of the Season twice. In his spell with United, which wasn't as long as someone like a John Terry, the trophies that he's won, like, it's like, that's why I say a trophy
in
magnet.
that time space as well, to accumulate the amount of trophy that he did, he won everything as well. So, and I think same with John Terry as well, he once again one of the better defenders that the Premier League has ever seen. Has won a lot of trophies during his career, and on top of that as well, whenever a debate comes up of who are going to be the best defenders that have ever been, that have ever graced the Premier League, then Vidic and players like John Terry, these are the first names that ever come up.
Top 5.
of all
for
time. If you
sure.
look at it, then both of them are going to be part of that list.
But also partnerships make it as well. Like Carvalho
Yeah.
alongside John Terry was very important, and then Rio equally alongside Nemanja Vidic, very important. On John Terry, 492 appearances, 214 clean sheets, which is decent, 5 titles. But not only that, I remember the season under Jose Mourinho, right around 2005-06, that kind of era. Just before there was like a period where Fergie went without a trophy for like 2 to 3 years because of how good Chelsea, like Mourinho's Chelsea was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had a record defensive area where I think they only conceded 15 goals in a season, in a single season.
Yeah.
Which is just madness. And that was because John Terry is a organisational mastermind. Just a massive leader for him. He was a dickhead off the pitch, but that's completely different. We're speaking about him as a pure player. Aerial threat in both boxes, his timing of tackles, bravery, commitment, everything you want from a centre-back. Longevity, consistency as well. I mean, it's not even a conversation, really. I know Sam will be behind his keyboard or his phone or whatever saying he's a dickhead and this and that. And he is. He did stupid things and shagged fucking loads of, like, players' wives and stuff. Just mad shit. Bit of racism there as well, which I fully acknowledge he is a dickhead. But as a player, captain, leader, one of the best to do it in the Prem, in my opinion. Now, different type of player, Shreyas, you would have seen more of. David Silva. Again, he is a City player, so don't praise him too much. But 309 appearances, 60 goals, 93 assists, 4 Premier League titles. Talk to me about David Silva. What did you like about him?
David Silva, he's just one of those players who I hated to see because I knew that whenever we're going to be coming up against him, he's going to cause a lot of problems. And I think throughout his tenure at Manchester City, I don't really remember. I think he's, when you look at City's tenure as well, there's not a lot of players who you would go and say that they are one of the best. They're one of the best. They're one of the best because it is only recent. I think in the past 10 years, I would say that they've got players coming about, players like Vincent Kompany, players like David Silva, like you mentioned, players like Yaya Toure, that they've had that have gone on to those heights. But I think David Silva was exceptional when it came to his play, his ability on the ball, his technical ability, the way he was able to find players around him, and I think he was able to elevate that City team. Like the kind of dominance that they had in that period with players leaving and new players coming in, De Bruyne coming in and all those players, he was still able to assert his place quite decent, in a quite decent manner in that team. And I think just, if you don't see him with that Manchester City shirt, you probably would say that, he's once again one of the most accomplished midfielders to play in the Premier League.
I think I've seen people in like this kind of football Twitter space and just football YouTube space talking about him like he's one of the greatest players to play in the Premier League. That's what I've seen. I wouldn't personally go that far. I think he's right up there. But when you talk about a player who's a play-making master, eye the needle passes, combinations, technique, David Silva was one of the very best. And adapting in tactical systems as well under different managers, he was very, very good. Trophy cabinet, international trophies, multiple Premier League titles, FA Cups, League Cups with City as well as the Euros and the World Cup with a Spanish national team, which obviously can't be taken too lightly. So his trophy cabinet speaks for himself. Described by his fellow countryman Santi Cazorla as the master. That's what Santi Cazorla, and he weren't a bad player himself. So yeah, David Silva's another one who doesn't get spoken about enough. I feel like there's a lot of players on this list. I spoke about Carrick yesterday, saying how fucking underrated he was, and no one's spoken about him. And if you would have put him in the England team at the time during our golden generation, then we probably would have won something because of the balance. David Silva, likewise, I know he won a lot of things, but doesn't get spoken about nowhere near enough. He was a fucking master of his craft and a top attacking midfielding player. Spanish players, isn't it? When it comes to technical, like you look at Thiago, Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, Mata, Fabregas. Like, they've got technical players for days. You could go through about a list of 40 of them, and it was all fantastic.
And all of them have that sort of longevity in them as well. Like, they played till they're, I would say, all of them, like 32, 33, 34.
Yeah.
I think Mata is actually still playing as well. He hasn't really
retired. Yeah, he's in, where is Mata? Is he in Chinese league now, I think?
I think so, Japan. I think he had a stint at Galatasaray. Then he moved to the Japanese league, I think. But all of these players, they've been playing for quite some time, and throughout their careers as well. Like I remember, the end days of Juan Mata at
Mhm.
Manchester United. You knew that he's losing it, but even whenever he was on the ball, he had that sort of flair in him, even
Oh, it was
at
unreal.
the later stages of his careers, and
Yeah.
you could see that, and those sort of players, I think it's very rare to see them now. Like those sort of players, you don't
Mhm.
see those sort of players
It's
now.
more an
Players
athletic
like
game now,
David
isn't it? It's
Silva,
more
Juan Mata,
pressing,
Fabregas.
running.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
know what you mean.
Those sort of players, the way they scanned the entire pitch and the kind of passes they made, just their ability on the ball when, like I would say if you had those sort of players now with 2 or 3 players pressing them, they would have no problem just going about
Yeah.
their game. Like
I
they had that
always
ability just to, pull something out of the hat every single time.
think about him like in five-a-side, how good they'd be at that.
Yeah.
Even now, like play one matter in a five-a-side, be pinging it left, right, centre. Just read a comment out. It's Sam saying, if there was ever a player I'd want from City, he was Silva, man. He was so good. Yeah, he was unbelievable. And he weren't a dickhead either. Like, he weren't one of those who like troll you if he scores. Like, he was just a pure class footballer.
Yeah.
And it's just shit that he was at
I
City.
think most of them, you would say that about most of those, most of the Spanish midfielders of that generation.
All of them.
Like, and I think you would say practically, if you put them in a team, best midfield you've got, like Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets has, the most dominant midfield that you've got for practically a decade.
Yeah.
Then you've got players like Fabregas, then you've got players like Juan Mata, then you've got David Silva, and then you've got other players around them as well who came in that sort of time and left. So a lot of players that we haven't even mentioned. So
yeah. Xabi Alonso, someone who we've spoken about. Like,
exactly.
They've got a wealth of midfielders. Like they really, really have. So yeah, David Silva, top player. Make sure you smash the like on the video, by the way, if you haven't done already, and do subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, if you've just come in from the shore, or whatever it is you're doing on this planet right now. If you can, leave a comment and smash a like. The last player we're going to discuss from the Premier League Hall of Fame is a striker. It's Michael Owen. 326 appearances, 150 goals, 31 assists, 1 league title, and 2 golden boots, which is funny because he didn't win a title with Liverpool, and as soon as he come to United at the age of like 30-odd, he went and then won a title with us. Scored a very important goal for us as well, of course, against Manchester City. I don't know if you ever watched clips, Shreyas, of him when he was 18 years old, when he first kind of came on the scene. Oh my God. Absolute killer in behind. Like, his pace and his movement was just fucking giving centre back. I've seen Rio talking about this as well, saying he used to hate playing against him because in behind he was nippy. His precise placement, consistency, composure for such a young kid as well. I remember him going to like the Euros and stuff with England and just looked like the best player. What you want from a striker in terms of pace and finishing, Michael Owen, again, I don't know if you watched much of him, but he was a top player.
Personally, I haven't seen a lot of him.
Yeah.
Because till the time I did tune in, most of the strikers I used to see, I would say Robin Van Persie, then Wayne Rooney in the Prem. Then you've got, I think I just tuned in at a very later time, like till the time these kind of, and what I do know of Michael Owen is that he's not a good commentator. He's not someone you would like to hear throughout the course of a game.
If we were to do analysis of him as a commentator versus a player, it'd be very different analysis.
Yeah, exactly my point. But I think as a striker and as a player, I saw one game, I think, and it was probably during the World Cup or something, where I think it was against Argentina or Germany, one of those teams, and he was just absolutely ripping apart every single defender, every single midfielder line, and just going all the way through himself. So there's definitely, when you look into these sort of players as well, of course, I think he ran himself to the ground.
Yeah, he had bad injuries
in the early stages of his career.
Really,
he genuinely
got played too much as well. Got played well too much.
Exactly.
For Liverpool, he was amazing. And against another one where, because he plays for the rival club, you don't want to praise him too much, but he was a top player. He's a fucking shocking commentator, but he was a top player. 1v1, even for his height, he was like really good at heading. He stood out from the off as soon as he came onto the scene at such a young age. People talking about him like the fucking best things at sliced bread. And he should definitely be considered. He should. If you're winning 2 golden boots, won a Premier League title, considered one of the deadliest strikers. I'm not sure about his record in terms of how many goals he got in total. What was it, 150 goals, 300? So 1 every 2 games, which is a decent record. but he just fell off towards the end of his career because he was, and also there was a bit of tainted legacy there with the fact that because he went from Liverpool and he played for United and Newcastle and all these clubs like as like a whole kind of thing. There was a lot of fans who were unhappy with him, especially Liverpool fans, for him to go into United, which you can kind of understand. But when I appreciate what you're saying about like you didn't see much of him. I had to speak about Andy Cole yesterday. I didn't have to, sorry, but he's one of the nominees. Oh, fucking hell. But he left United in 2001. I was born in 1995, so I was 6 years old when Andy Cole left. So I can't appreciate a player as much. You can watch clips back, but it's not the same, is it? You don't have that connection like with him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because when you see something happening on the pitch, when you see it live, because I would say, I think one of the most memorable moments that I have when I talk into the perspective as someone young who's and I was watching the World Cup, and it was a 2010 World Cup which was happening in I think South Africa, and that was the first time I saw Diego Forlan playing for Uruguay and Wesley Sneijder playing for
Sneijder was a bad
Netherlands.
Man. Top
Exactly.
Player,
and the kind of goals Forlan was scoring in that tournament, and the kind of goals and the way Sneijder was playing in that tournament. So those were the first two players who, when I was seeing, these guys have got something in them.
Yeah.
And so, and yes, after you do go on and you see clips, then I think once you see something happening in in real time, it has much more of an it has much more of a lasting effect on you rather than when you go onto YouTube and see those sort of clips.
Definitely, yeah. It's just a connection in general. Just one more stat on Michael Owen. He remains one of only 10 players with 150 or more Premier League goals, which is obviously is in great company there. So out of the four that I've mentioned, Shreyas, Michael Owen, David Silva, John Terry, Nemanja Vidic, I have a feeling you're going to say, but who should be the one to go in there for sure?
I think Vidic definitely needs to go in there.
Yeah.
And if I had to choose from the other options, I would.
It's Terry. Terry for me.
Yeah, 100%. I think it would either be Terry, and if not him, then I would go David.
Yeah. So in the order, do you think it would be Vidic, Terry, David Silva, and then Owen, probably, most likely, in terms of who they should vote? Again, I don't know who they're going to put in there. I think Terry will definitely go in. I think Ashley Cole's been put in. So if you put Ashley Cole in there, I'm sorry, but John Terry definitely needs to be in there, and Vidic. The others, I'm not too bothered about. If you don't want to put a Liverpool player in there, that's fine. If you don't want to put a City player in there, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, let us know out of the nominees. I mean, let me get the nominees up for you before I go, and you can give us a vote, and then I'll go through the vote on the poll as well, which we put up on YouTube. So Premier League Hall of Fame, just very quickly. I should have a list of them up. Let's see. Don't want to play fantasy now. Thank you very much. What the fuck? Where are the players? Just clicked on the thing. It's not. Oh, here we go. There we go. No. Well, in there already, actually. It's interesting. Sorry, just very quickly. So Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, Petr Cech, Rio, Tony Adams, Patrick Vieira, Rooney, Peter Schmeichel, Ian Wright. I mean, Ian Wright was good. But if Ian Wright's in there, do you know what I mean? How was some of the others? Like, that's just... Was Andy Cole not in there? Like, what the fuck? Aguero, Vincent Kompany, Henry, Shearer, Cantona, Keane, Bergkamp, Beckham, Lampard, Gerrard are in there. And then I need to get the nominees up, man. Where's the nominees? Is it... It's not coming up. Oh, yeah, actually. There we go. Sorry, I've got it up now. Sol Campbell, Michael Carrick, Jermaine Defoe, Andrew Cole, Cesc Fabregas, Les Ferdinand, Hazard, Fowler, Neville, Owen, Terry, Silva, Torre, Van der Sar. Let me know in the comment section two players out of that who should go in. And also leave your strikers as well. What strikers do you want to sign for Manchester United? Smash a like on the video. And me and Shreyas will see you guys in the next one, yeah?
Yeah.
Take it easy, people. See you in a bit.